we are joined by Stephen Linnell, who's the Chief Executive Officer at Pay Inc. Thank you so much for your time, Stephen.
Thank you.
We do appreciate it. Now, the Competition Tribunal has approved, and it's also been received, that SARB is going to acquire 50% of Pay Inc. I'm curious to know what this all means. Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Does it change the mandate? How are things going to change now?
Yes, so the subscription of the SARB into Pay Inc. absolutely does change our formal mandate. So whereas before Pay Inc. was effectively the payment service operator for various payment clearinghouses, under the transaction, what will happen is that we will now expand our role across the entire value chain of the payments ecosystem. But I think more importantly, what will happen is that Pay Inc. will become the national payments utility of South Africa. And so we'll become the primary vehicle through which the SARB will exercise its digitization roadmap. So I guess to your question as to whether it is good or bad, I think it is the culmination of many things. It's the realization that payments drive an economy, that digital payments are necessary for financial inclusion, and it's not something that a central bank or the government can take a passive stance to. It needs to activate digital payment transformation in the country. And so having the SARB actively come in with us and actively play a role in the market is certainly a good thing. In fact, it's a necessary thing, and it's not the first jurisdiction in the world where this has happened. So there's many success cases globally, whether it's Brazil or India, where the central bank has taken an active role and it has had an outsized positive effect.
And with SARB now being involved with Pay Inc., I mean, you've spoken about the changes that it's going to bring about, and I'm just wondering if it's going to further accelerate the goals that have been set out, especially when it comes to financial inclusion and digital inclusion, because that's obviously a very big one.
Exactly, that's right. Our mission is to enable financial inclusion and economic growth through the creation of a trusted and interoperable payments ecosystem. And to do so, to accelerate towards that goal, you need to remove friction, and you need to find a coalition of parties that are looking to work towards that same goal. And the SARB, mostly expressed through its payment ecosystem modernization program, its goal really is to create a digital economy. And so you can see from those two things, our goal and the SARB's goal are actually in perfect harmony. And I think it's that community of purpose that will be the necessary groundswell to create traction in the market.
Would you say that this was the one thing that was perhaps stopping the country from being more aggressive about the financial inclusion, this partnership between you and the SARB?
I think
I can call it a partnership.
It certainly is a partnership. I think it's ultimately a coalition between the private sector and the public sector. And so both parties in their individual rights are aware of the importance of this, and coming together, I think, is the only way that one can systematically address the challenges in South Africa. So it is perhaps not the one thing. I think it is an important element. It's at the very least a call to action across the whole economy to pursue this singular goal.
And just in terms of the different phases and the next couple of phases when it comes to Pay Inc., specifically if you look at Pay Shap.
Pay Shap, yes.
It's obviously been in the market since about 2023, and it's had its impact, but what is the next phase and the next development phase, would you say?
Well, I love the way you used impact, because often when asked about the progress of Pay Shap, I would say we've got 13 banks using the product. We're processing 45 million transactions a month, and it's grown 160% year on year. But impact is the more important question. It's not what have we done with Pay Shap, it is how is Pay Shap impacting the users. And you can probably answer that question on two fronts, the breadth of the impact and the depth of that impact. I think on the depth of the impact, absolutely it has had a significant positive benefit. So the ability for an individual or a business to initiate or receive payment instantaneously at low cost 24/7 just using a cell phone number is a fantastic capability that the market needed. But in terms of the breadth, I'd have to say that we haven't achieved what we want to achieve. So I think, unfortunately, the user experience is not consistent across the market. The ubiquity of the product isn't wide enough to be used. And so there's lots that still has to take place. And our focus, certainly over the next couple of years, will be to drive simplicity into the initiation of a PayShap transaction and drive the acceptance, the merchant acceptance of PayShap as a form of payment. And we will do that in sort of two phases. The first, we'll be deploying quick response QR code enablement for PayShap. Those standards have been published. They are ready for use by the participants, and the SARB will themselves be endorsing their standard in the market so that there's a ubiquitous QR code standard in South Africa. And then secondly, it'll be around the use of digital wallets, being able to initiate a PayShap transaction from a digital wallet in the same way that one currently loads their card onto a digital payment capability. So those are the two areas that I think we will still have to really work hard on before PayShap can be seen as a success or have an impact in the market.
Where do you think things are going to head towards when it comes to fintechs and even banks? I mean, if you look at the structure of banks nowadays, it's only when it's an utmost necessity do you walk into a bank.
Yes.
But they're still needed, especially for areas that don't have that financial inclusion.
Yes.
But where do you see things heading, especially when it comes to fintechs and that whole payment system?
So I guess fintechs have always had a significant role in the payments ecosystem. What is happening at the moment is the central bank, through regulatory change, the National Payments Act and the Banks Exemption Act, is specifically broadening the role that fintechs, retailers, corporates can play. So into traditional spaces such as clearing and settlement that currently only banks are able to play. And so I think that's more recognizing the role that they already play in the ecosystem. And as we mentioned before, having banks and fintechs and corporates all pursuing this common objective is critical. It requires many people to crowdsource around this particular problem. And so I think it will help increase hyper specificity and targeting different parts of the market. I think it will help with competitive differentiation. I don't think specifically it's a concern for the banks. The banks themselves are going through, as you mentioned, a digitization roadmap where it supports their strategy, which is ultimately moving away from physical cash and into digital payments. And so being able to participate with a broader ecosystem of parties, I think makes the ecosystem more rich. I think it's positive.
If you were to look into your glass ball
Okay.
and predict one major trend or disruption that would redefine payments in the next decade, what would it be and why?
I think if you ask anyone this, they're probably going to say artificial intelligence. And I think it's probably true. I don't want to underemphasize the impact that I think it will have in society as a whole, but in payments, we can already see the impact of it. And I think the way I see it playing out really is, for the most part, payments operate by stringing together a number of participants in a value chain. So between the payor and the payee, many parties are playing an intermediary role. And with artificial intelligence, in particular agentic artificial intelligence, that intermediation or the orchestration of payment is largely going to be run through intelligent machines. And the efficiency of that will be great, the user experience will be great, but it'll also introduce new risks. I think fraud, for one, is an area we have to be very cautious of. As payments move from physical to digital, perhaps you're not dealing necessarily with the physical security risk, but the electronic fraud that moves alongside that migration is huge. And an artificial intelligence-driven fraud will match the innovation in the market in any event. And so not only will it have a positive effect, I think there are certainly risks that come about from artificial intelligence.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Thanks
Wonderful.
for your time.
Thank you,
We
Heidi.
appreciate it, Stephen.
Thank you.